Hi guys, Jason here again. Welcome back to the channel. Today, this is obviously an Ecstasy. It's a 101B, right? Pretty mint condition. I actually don't know what year it is. I should have asked Wayne, who owns this amp. This has come in because we're going to change the transformer over. This is currently a US model, which is rated, it says on the rear, 117 volts AC. Obviously here in Australia, we're 240, right, similar to the UK. And these power transformers in the Bogners are not universal. You cannot rewire them. I actually had another friend, John, who I've worked on a bunch of amps for. He imported a diesel Herbert, I think it was a Herbert, in from Europe, which is pre-wired at 230, and we were able, on the bench here, I just rewired it to 240 volts using the service manual that Peter Diesel has published on his website, which is an awesome reference. Unfortunately, the Bogners, the power transformers are hardwired, or they're not universal, right? So the only way to convert this to 240 is to put a new power transformer in. So today we're putting in this guy. It's a tube amp Dr. PT, and it literally says Ecstasy 101B export model, and it does have the wiring set up on here. It's actually rated for 230 volts, right? This will be for a European voltage, but there's a lot of amps in Australia here that are wired at 230. People are using them at 240 mains. It's okay. It's probably running a little bit, voltages a little bit higher than what the manufacturer would have specified, but it's marginal. Right, let's open this bad boy up and see what's cooking. So just have a look at the top of the chassis here. That wasn't easy to pull out of the head cab. Like, like it hadn't been pulled out in a long time. These transformers, absolutely original. They have to be. They're labelled Bogner, and you can see with the nice aging patina that's on these guys, they would have been on the amp from the beginning. I'm curious as to what year this is now. I'm going to find out. There is serial on the rear, which is written in digits rather than symbols, which is nice. The symbol-based serials can be pretty hard to unravel. A full complement of JJ in the pre and in the power stage. So, don't know when this was last retubed, but Wayne has supplied a set of matched rubies, which I think are branded JJs. Right. So let's flip this over and see what we can see. Well, this is looking very tidy. I cannot find any evidence, just in a very quick look, that it's been modded and hacked up in any way. Interesting arrangement here. Right, that'll be factory though, is my guess. Very common. And here, well, this one here, flying above the PCB. Go and have a look at a diesel VH4 and you'll see they do that a lot. So I am no expert on ecstasies, but I know there's different revisions and different factory versions and mods. A lot of them probably use the same main board, main PCB. So little additions like this you can kind of run over the top of the PCB. As long as it doesn't get out of control, it's okay. I think power tube, separate board for the power tubes, which is I think a great idea and very similar to what I'm doing in the Alta 100 actually. It allows you to kind of pull this out if you need to replace power tube socket. You don't need to bring the whole board out, right? So there is some thinking here around serviceability. If we move down here, this is where the power transformer is coming in onto the main board here, and down here as well. Okay, so this is the high voltage supply here. This is probably a low voltage, high current wind for DC heaters. It looks like standby switch, perhaps. I want to check all that out. I think it is. And then here we'll have normal mains and heater wiring. But you can see the power switch is actually this guy here, and it's wired. Well, not wired. It's actually PCB mounted. So it's controlling. This will be to the primary side of the power transformer. And here's my favorite knot. Varistas, which if anyone watched my power transformer replacement on the Bogner Ecstasy will know that I got a hell of a fright. I won't make that mistake twice. Okay, we learn from our mistakes on this channel, and that was one of them. So that'll be coming out, and I'll be checking that too. I'm not too sure what that is. But I'll give that a close examination. This Varista was Varista is put in to protect the amp from a greater than 120 volts on the mains. So if someone inadvertently exports an amp out of the US, uses it in Europe, UK or Australia, plugs it in, turns it on without putting it on a variac or a step-down transformer, this thing is going to short, and you'll basically blow or you'll trip a fuse, right? At your meter box rather than smoking your amp. So it's not a bad addition. It's just something to be wary of. Well, I am wary of them now. Okay, I have actually got the amp powered up on the Variac here. So one of the things that's really important when you're changing a power transformer like this, check the voltages. You know, the main voltages, B+, heaters, any other kind of secondaries that are on the PT at the rated voltage for the stock PT, right, which is 117. So I've got 117 dialed up on the Variac, and I'll just touch it on the mains here. 118. The time I took to turn the camera on, the wall voltage has changed slightly, but you know, we're in close enough, right? I will attempt to measure these where you can see the meter. Hopefully you can see it there. I'm just going to measure the heater, right? So you can go a couple of ways you can do this. I've noticed, see these yellow greens here? This is a 6.3 volt, even says it on the PCB, right? 6.3 VAC. Pins 2 and 7. All right, so we're 6.25. Okay, so when we change the PT over, this is a key reference point, right? That at your wall voltage, you're getting the specified supply there. So bias, this is the AC wind for the bias supply. It's 54 volts AC. I see on the wiring spec sheet for the replacement PT, it says 52 volts at 100 milliamps. Okay, so that's all cool. The next thing I will check is the secondaries, right? So I'm going to measure across these two pins. This is the high voltage AC secondary. It comes in here on the main board. 390 volts AC. Okay, that's across the two winds. There are the two winds. This red and yellow is the center tap for it. And you can see the high voltage secondary comes in here because here's the main rectification and filtering section, which then comes in through the standby switch and makes its way over here, where we can check the actual plate voltage on pin 3 up in DC. Pin 3. Right, 500. All right. Actually, the only other one I'll check is the low voltage secondary, which is for the DC heaters. If I can get a reading on that, there you go, 14.7 volts AC. And this is used to create a 12 volt DC supply for the filaments, which you can measure directly on the tube here, 11.83 volts. So I've just been having a closer look at the setup here, right? And here is, I'll just bring it into picture. Here's the replacement PT, right? And we do have on the box was a very simple wiring, wouldn't call it a diagram, but it's clearly labeled, right? So that's all cool. And I've just been checking out how this is wired up, and I think that this job might be a bit easier than I suspected when I first looked at the amp, because I don't need to remove the boards, right? Looks really kind of obvious now that I've had a chance to look at it, but the factory power transformer, all of the wires come in through this hole in the chassis here, right, through this grommet, and heaters, bias wind, really simple and easy to get to. Here's the primary, just these two wires here. Right, so that's to the primary side of the transformer. Everything else here doesn't need to be touched, right? This is one side of the standby switch. This yellow and blue is the choke, send and return, I guess, to think of it that way, of the choke. And then D2, which is this red wire here, goes off and comes back onto this board at this point, right there. All right, so essentially the mains, right, is switched to the power transformer here with this power switch. That'll activate a voltage at the high voltage secondary, which is these guys here, right? That's the center tap on this side, and then the two HVs here. Rectified, here's our bridge rectifier, right? And filter caps for the mains. That DC smoothed rectified high voltage B plus comes here. Here's the standby switch, this red wire here. It travels off to the standby switch at the front, right, which is switched. The other side of the standby switch then comes back onto the board here. And the reason it comes back onto this board is because this is now setting up for, we'll go through the high voltage HV fuse, HT fuse, I should say, high tension fuse. Sorry, this one, that's the mains fuse. HT fuse here, it even says it on the board. And then onto the plates, right? So you kind of trace all this through. So what it basically means to change this transformer, all I really need to do, these grey wires are going to come out. That's the 16 volt AC line for the DC heaters, as already mentioned. Here's the high voltage setup. I've got heaters and bias, and then the primary. Pretty straightforward, and all of that stuff kind of comes through and through that hole here, which also includes the wires for the choke and the primary side of the PT. So, all in all, I'm hoping this won't be too difficult. Right, so we have, I've taken out all the leads, right? So the primary side, everything from the secondary. And I've just gone through and cleaned up all the holes. You would have seen it on the video, right? So if you don't have one of these, you're doing this kind of work, got to be done, right? This one works really great. I do have the good old desoldering gun, right, which I can crank up and get going. That's pretty cool. But just to kind of work like this, one of these handheld pumps is absolutely fine, I find. So, in theory, right, I should be able to flip this guy over, unbolt the power transformer and pull it out. Just pull these tubes out while we're here, as we're going to be putting a new set in anyway. There's a center tap for those heaters, which I need to find because I haven't undone that green and yellow, which interestingly, according to the specs on this replacement, the heater wind does not have a center tap. And that's going to be interesting. Might need to create one. So I figured out, not surprisingly I guess, that this green and yellow, it's the center tap for the heater filament wind. Alright, it obviously comes onto the board here, and it's grounded right on this ground lug, right in the corner here underneath the IEC connector. And our replacement power transformer, right, does not have a center tap for the heaters. There they are. So I'm going to do a faux center tap using two 100 ohm resistors. It's never a good idea to run your heaters without a ground reference, or a reference to, if you're doing DC elevated heaters, then you obviously reference to that DC. You inevitably will get heater hum, if that's just floating. Okay, and it's definitely grounded at the moment because I've checked the continuity to the other side of the heater winds here, and that center tap is definitely for the heaters. I don't want to I hate cutting wires on power transformers, or any transformer for that matter, because once you cut it, you can't uncut. And that power transformer, this could be worth something to someone in the US, and so it could be sold intact. So what I'm going to do is, I can get the soldering iron in here, I just checked it, and I'm going to remove the power transformer cleanly and keep every single wire intact. So I'm going to do my faux center tap, and I'm going to run it to the ground over here, I think, because this is, in fact, it's a fantastic ground reference. There's two twisted wires that go straight to that same ground lug. So if I can tap into that, run a wire across, two 100 ohm resistors coming out of here along with this, with the heater wind, we should be good to go. Okay, we've got that green and yellow center tap disconnected from the ground lug, so let's just see. Yeah, okay, she's coming away now. Just put a support under here for now. All right, and there we have it. Lead free. There you go, 2007. I was curious as to the amp. Well, that's probably when the transformer was made, but I'm tipping the amp was assembled or wired not long after that. Here's the new one, and the first thing to check, of course, is that the dimensions of the transformer are going to match. They better, because if it doesn't, the mounting holes I'm talking about, then it's not an aftermarket replacement in my book. The other thing I'll note is that the original has all of the primary and secondary winds coming out of one side. This aftermarket transformer has primary on one side and all the secondaries on the other. That's kind of more conventional, but this amp chassis's only got one hole for all the wires. So I'm going to run that primary around the edge of the transformer and bring it in through here. Okay, so with the amp flipped over, let's why don't you give that a little clean. What I want to check is that our replacement power transformer is actually sized up for these mounting holes. If it doesn't, I'm gonna cry. Shit, it's pretty close. I think it'll work. Pretty tight. I might need to file these a little bit. We'll see. Alright, so first note, I did have to drill these out a little bit, these mounting holes, because I did a test that before I poked the wires through, right, with the existing bolts, and lo and behold, it's about 1 millimeter off, and that the mounts here are too wide. Impossible. So I don't know what Bogner chassis these guys are measuring, but it's not this one. Anyway, nothing a 8mm drill bit didn't fix. And now I've just poking these wires through, and you can see I'm running the primary around the outside because there's only one hole. Okay, so let's try and sort these wires out. That's obviously our filament heaters. This is our bias. So these guys are going to go that way. That's the grey for the DC heaters and relay supply. So they're going to head off this way. Okay, well, we've roughed everything in here. Right, so basically everything is ready to go. So let's we'll just start putting it all, wiring it all back in. My 100 ohm resistors. They're going to sit in there. Just going to figure out how best to do it. I might just have them coming straight up actually. And then wire across to the ground over here. Okay, we're going to very gently bring this up on the variac, and I'm going to be testing voltages as I go. I'm going to start it off in standby because to begin with I just want to check the heaters, the bias, basically all the AC ones, right, before we kind of get into looking at what's going on with our plate voltage. So I'm just going to place that there, and I'm going to bring the variac on here. It's on 0 volts. Okay. Now, variac is at, well, I'll tell you what it is because I'll put it on AC. All right, so here's our live. I'm going to go to 48 volts, which is what I do when I do things like this, right, is I check as a multiple of 240 what the other voltages would be. Yeah, so we should be here at, 5 times, or take a reading and divide it by 5. Or multiply it by 5, I should say. So 0.6, right, that's one side. Here's the other, because we've got our centre tap in play here, our faux centre tap, right, set to ground. So that's 1.2, give or take. No load on the, transformer's not under any load at the moment, so it's going to be higher. Multiply that by 0.5, 1.2 times 5. Six volts, right? 6 point something. So that's good. That is good. Let's have a look at what's going on with these. That's 40, and this other one will be 40 as well. Okay, so that's according to the spec sheet, we're at 185. $40, so 4 5s would be 200, higher than 185, but again, that's 185 at 230 and 185 under load. No load on here at the moment, right? So until these power tubes start conducting, not much is going to happen. So that's kind of okay, right? Where we are at the moment. Let me see if I can get a reading on this. Three volts AC times by 5, 15. I'm happy with that. What else? Let's check the bias. 11 times by 5 is 55, and according to our wiring diagram, 52. Okay, so this is telling me that everything's kind of okay. So I'll keep going. We'll go up to 120. Just going to be half. Obviously, and doing this is a bit nerve-wracking. Right, a new power transformer just wired in, bringing it up first time. It's not fun, to be honest. There's other things I'd rather be doing on amps than one of these, but anyway, it's all good. Bias. All right, so we're now half. All right, so that's looking pretty good. 1.6, so that's 3.2 heaters. All right, 3.2, 6.4, doubled. That looking really good. Really, really good. One side of the high voltage secondary, it's 100, so we double that. Oh, sorry, yeah, we double that. It's 200. So that is a bit higher, but we're still not under load here yet. It's higher than the spec sheet, but again, that's at 230. So I suspect that once this is up and running at 240 volts, the plate voltage is going to be in excess of 500 volts. which is cranking, no doubt about that. We could probably get a DC reading on here now. There you go. These are DC heaters, right, running at half. It was 11.8, remember? Right, so I'm going to declare it that everything is wired correctly, but let's go a bit higher. 180 is my next port of call. And 180 will be enough to get the power tubes to conduct easily. And we do have glow. I'm looking down, you can't see it, but underneath here I can see the new matched quad. They are JJs, straight out of this box here. Not even branded as rubies, they're just straight up JJs. EL34s. So it's all looking pretty cool. It's DC heaters there coming up nicely. All right. This is one side of the high voltage, 150. The other. We try and get a reading here. 150. All right. So it does looking better now that we're conducting. I'm going to check the bias on these two, right? Once this is up and running, get the bias probe out, do a bias adjustment as well. Well, let's keep going to 240 and see where we end up. I might just check it there at 230 because the power transformers are actually, as we know, 230, and I can hear it now. It's starting to, definitely coming to life. Yeah, 3.2. So that's that's bang on 6.3. Right, so not surprisingly, at a 230 volt mains, European voltage, it's bang on 6.3. So they've wound the power transformer correctly. I'll give them that. Yeah, pretty cool. All right, I am going to power this back down now, and we're going to take it out of standby and bring it up slowly out of standby and checking essentially the plate voltage, right? Because if that's coming up nicely, which I suspect it will now, we're going all right. And what I'm going to do is I want to check, we're going to be on pin 3 here. So we've got plate voltage coming up here very quickly. Variacs on about 45 volts. We'll bring it up to the halfway mark. And yeah, this is pretty high. We're about 120 there at the moment. Let's have a look. I'll go back to AC. Yeah, 120. Now remember, once the power tubes start conducting, it will generate a drop in the voltage through the load. So I wouldn't double this, right? Because if I double that, that's a cranking plate voltage. And this is one issue, and I mentioned in the video before, right? There's a lot of amps at 230. A lot of European amps get imported into Australia. And our voltage here is 240, so you do get higher voltages in the amp as a result of that, obviously. I'm going to bring this up to 180. About 180 there. Yeah, but I mean, in terms of the power transformer being wired correctly, there's no doubt in my mind that this is all good. Right, here's the screen pin. Here's the grid. It's obviously a bias voltage here. Okay. Let's keep going. We're at 220 now. Yeah. And we've got a nice, healthy 458 volts on the plates. Nothing wrong with that. All right. Let's keep going. Let's go to 230, which will be the European voltage. It's 220. $230. DC, plate voltage, 480. Right, so this is okay actually. Not going to be as extreme as I feared because we're getting a nice current draw on this power transformer. And I don't know if you can hear it now, but it's starting to sound like it's alive. Right, so let's go to 240 and we'll see where we're at with everything. $500 volts. That's good. That's actually exactly as it was, right? Wayne, you'll be very happy, mate. Right on spec. Right? Freaking right on. Look at that. Even the DC heater's 11.8. Oops. Fucking, it's the same. Giddy up. Yeah, that's cool. You can tell I'm pretty happy. Okay, from here, I am going to check the bias on these tubes. I'm going to plug my cabinet in. I've just got this running into a resistive dummy load at the moment, right? I'm going to plug the cabinet in, give it a, make sure the amp's working. And then we are going to take it into the music room, my studio area. We're going to have a listen to this thing. Have some fun with it, right? Okay, let's bias it. Big, bold, beautiful, clean channel on the Ecstasy, right? It's got massive headroom, big, warm bottom end. It's beautiful to play, lots of fun. What we're here to have listened to, though, is channel 2, right? The blue. I mean, the red's cool as well, and we'll get to that, right? But now that we've got this new PT in here, I can just plug this guy straight into the mains and not be worried about step down transformers or variacs or anything like that. and it's come up really great, right? It's a nice, quiet power transformer. It's not humming, it's not carrying on or anything like that. And as we saw at the bench, the voltages are all pretty good. So let me move this across to the blue channel and we'll have a listen. All right, so on the blue channel, you can see here, right? Here we are, here's the master volume, here's the gain. You can see I've got that about, you know, what is it, 2 p.m, give or take. I've got the tone stack sitting here right at midday, and we're on, this is the presence here, right? So it's just above midday. It's kind of how I normally set presence in a Marshall style amp. And this is a Marshall style amp, well, you know, modded. And let's have a listen to this, right? I'm actually in the high structure mode, and I've got the boost on, but this is actually a boost cut, right? It's not actually a boost. What the boost function is on the Ecstasy is a gain cut when it's in the low mode. So when it's in the high mode, it's just running without being attenuated. And my EQ setting here, well, I'll have a play with this, right? So if I take the brights off, this is basically allows you to select 2 different bright cap values on the gain pot, right? So in the middle here, there's no bright cap at all. Now, can you see why Bogners and Bogner Ecstasies have a reputation of being dull? There's a blanket over my amp. Oh, it sounds dull, right? Yeah, I agree. But stay tuned, because that can be dialed out, right? But if you set these up, as you kind of might do, you know, put everything on midday and just go for it, they are very, very mid-heavy and bottom-heavy amps. There's no top end there at all. So I bring the bright in. This way, it's maximum bright. This is like an old-fashioned bright cap on an old Marshall, right? Really aggressive. You get a lot of top end and mid-range as well. So we're starting to get in the ballpark here now. This is kind of getting towards closer to the tones that I prefer. And then to the left is a lower value or a smaller value bright cap, which gives you the bit of sizzle on the top end, but it's not quite as aggressive. It's essential, in my opinion, right? You got to run these with a bright cap. No bright cap at all. I mean, if you're going for that tone, cool, right? But for me, I need that. Now, the thing that everyone needs to understand with a Bogner Ecstasy is this treble pot, okay? It's an audio taper treble pot. Now, in most, if not all, classic Marshalls, right, and this has a Marshall style tone stack in it, it's a linear treble pot, and in this amp it's an audio taper. Now what does that mean? What it means is that it has a logarithmic sweep, and in practice it means that when the treble pot is at midday like it is now, then that's the same as having a regular linear treble pot like that, right, on a standard Marshall. This is why this is what gives the Bogner Ecstasy part of its sound and characteristic. It's the choice of an audio taper treble pot. Now you see this on a few other amps, not many, right? It's not that common. But what it means is if you kind of understand that, and you're prepared to use your ears rather than your eyes, you can actually bring this treble up and kind of bring it up to here, say 2:30, 3 o'clock, and that's going to get you more kind of in the range where you might ordinarily dial in your favorite 2203, 2204 kind of style amp, right? Where you might have the treble kind of sitting at midday. Well, on the Bogner Ecstasy, you want to bring that up, I believe, to kind of get you that sound that you might be more used to. But it's still got that Bogner signature, right? So let's try this. You can see where I've got it set right. I've just brought the bass up a little bit here. I've got my less aggressive bright cap gains there, and I brought that treble up, and let's have a listen to this. Yeah, that's starting for me, that's starting to sing now, right? That's the sound that I hear in my head. Now, a lot of people that I know wouldn't necessarily dial this in like this, right? You'd look at it and you go, okay, yeah, set it up, here we go. And if you're after that darker kind of sound, right, really rolled off top end, then that's cool. But I think in a mix, right, in a live situation, or if you're tracking in studio, for me, I'm going to want that bite. So I'm going to run that treble pipe right up like that. And when you dial that up like that, you can probably play with a bit more gain. Because again, when you bring the gain up on this and you kind of start to neutralize the effect of the bright cap, it will get undefined and woolly. So I'll bring that back again, bring this gain here up. It's starting to mush up in the mid-range for me. Bring this treble back up again. Plenty of sustain there, it really sings, right? It feels nice under the fingers. Let's try the red channel and see if the kind of the same characteristics hold. All right, we're on the red channel, right? The red channel is basically the blue with an extra gain stage inserted kind of in the middle of the preamp. It's not a gain stage in front, it's actually kind of through the middle of the circuit. It shares the same tone stack, right? And it has its own gain, as we know. With its own bright cap selection, right? So none, B1, B2. Again, I'll kind of replicate where I was on the blue channel and begin with no bright cap on. You can see I do have the gain brought back. If I bring this up, to get a bit noisy, but too much gain for my liking. There's truckloads here, right? too dark for me, right? There's heaps of gain there, but it's too congested in the mid-range, right? So let's bring the bright in. Let's try to the right first. This is the more aggressive bright cap where we're going to be bringing in top end and mid-range. Better. It's better. Let's try the other way. I prefer that. No surprise, right? It's getting more kind of Marshall-like. But I'm going to do the same thing we did before, and I'm going to bring this treble pot up to where I think this amp really starts to come to life. Yeah, I've never owned a Bogner Ecstasy, but after having this one here and then doing the work on it and having a chance to kind of really play with it and tune it in for my ears, I'm pretty fond of it. I wouldn't mind one. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so, and like and subscribe, ring the bell, all that good stuff, and I'll see you next time.